Day 9 of our epic trip across the US. We go all the way to East Coast and we visit DC, and I'd never been there before.
So we're headed out for a day trip to the capital area.
So here we go, driving into the city of Washington, DC. I'd never been there, I didn't know what to expect. Here's, I think, the Potomac River. As we drove across that, you could see it from all around where we were at the Capitol Mall. There's a bunch of bridges and things to look at. And we also got a little lost and turned around, but there were these cool arches that we never would have seen otherwise. And we were going to do like touring, but not a tour bus. So actually, Greg had been there before, so he was going to be our tour guide for the day. I had no clue what to expect or what the layout was like. I just knew there was a big pool and the Washington Monument and those kinds of things, that I wanted to see all of it or as much as we could. So we just started walking and Greg started leading us around. There was the World War II Fountain Memorial. I didn't know what it was until we got to the other side of it and could read the plaque. I think Greg knew what everything was, but it was really cool. A lot of water features and interesting. A really nice memorial for all the people that gave their lives in that war. And again, you could kind of see everything was centered around this Washington Monument.
The wind is really blowing here. I'm out here in front of the White House.
So it seemed like the Washington Monument was right in the center. You could see the White House in one direction, and then you could turn and see the Capitol building in the other direction where the Senate meets and those kinds of things. We didn't walk all the way down there, but we did drive past it later to get a little closer view. But pretty much everything centered up at this Washington Monument. And that's kind of where we took a little time and wanted to just be in the middle of it.
I should probably go over here and show you the monument. You can see all the flags blowing. This is the Washington Monument. And my husband walking up the hill. You can continue around so you can see the rest of the city. It's a nice grassy lawn, tree, kind of boring, so let's cut out of that. Some in that direction. I don't know what that is. That building. And then go back out, zoom around. That's the Lincoln Memorial.
The Lincoln Memorial is definitely something I wanted to see. I don't think I had any idea of the scale. Greg just kept telling me it was really big, and you can see now we're getting closer and closer, and as we get there, it's very large, the scale of it with the big columns. And then we went inside for the Lincoln Memorial, and it's bigger than you expect, or at least I expected. I also want to see the Supreme Court, which we drove past, so these are just some photos from the car. We couldn't really walk there, it would have been too far. Everything's spread out a little bit. And so that was interesting. And then we saw a lot of other things as we drove. Actually, we walked through the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Then there were some other things around that I'm not quite sure what they were. There were some statues. We would read the inscriptions, but right off the top of my head, I don't completely remember what these were. But there was just stuff everywhere. On the street corners, as we drove around the whole area, there was buildings, federal buildings, all kinds of different kinds of places, some museums. And, you know, it was amazing, all the old buildings. I kept saying, what's that? What's that? And I would have to read the plaques on the front, and some of them we didn't know and couldn't figure out in time. But it was just amazing to see all the buildings. It was very different than what I had expected. I didn't realize there were that many buildings, and particularly that close together. Actually, some of these with the hills, light hills and stuff, kind of gave me the feel of San Francisco, but a little bit more open. Yeah, and then we started driving, and it was time to leave, and we went through this tunnel that went back under the mall, and then we were back on the road back to our hotel.